Welcome to Doing the Work, a Naples integrated recovery podcast. My name is Brian, and this space is for anyone who's tired of surviving the same emotional and behavioral loops, whether that's anxiety, trauma, addiction, or problems in your relationships. Around here, we cut the surface level advice, no sugarcoating, no platitudes, no bumper sticker wisdom. We focus on clarity, responsibility, emotional discipline, and the courage to look at yourself honestly so that you can stop repeating the same old patterns and start living with intention instead of reaction. Let's get into it. Hello, everybody. Today, I wanted to talk about something very personal. I think if you go back, I had talked about in one of the first episodes, what's the whole point of this podcast? Well, hopefully to be helpful to people, but at the same time that a lot of what I write and talk about is my own continued process, my own wellness, my own reinforcing and remetabolizing the things that I am working on and trying to apply for myself. And so today I wanted to talk about self-correction in real time. There has been a pattern that I have been aware of for a while. I've gotten a lot of memes and jokes and occasional feedback from friends or family, but it has been about running at full speed, and from the outside, everything looks really awesome as far as being a private practice owner, full schedule, high demand, consistent work, income where I would love it to be, and no obvious problem at face value. If anything, it looks like things are going exceptionally well. And that is what has made it very easy to stay in it. Because when something works, I don't usually question the structure that's producing it. I just stay inside it and maybe get better at it or adapt it. I have been seeing about 40 to 50 clients a week, 6 days a week. Add in administrative stuff on top of this. My practice is a one-person operation. This means that I am not only the sole clinician who does the therapy, assessments, treatment planning, crisis management, documentation, outcomes. I'm the clinical director. I'm the intake and triage coordinator. I am the practice owner, the operations manager, the scheduler, the biller and revenue manager, the marketing and brand voice and content creator for the 3 people that listen to the podcast, the client experience manager, the IT admin person. I mean, I can keep going with probably 15 other things that I do. But so now we are looking at 50 hours of clinical work and 15-ish hours of other admin work, 6 days, admin all around it, tight windows, everything is organized around output. 60, 70 hours a week. And for a while, I told myself that I am a highly efficient machine and that all of it is controlled and self-gaslighting, I think, is accurate. It's chaos. It's full chaos. I walk one client to the door and another one is already walking in. There is no reset. There's no transition. There is no space to actually close one conversation before I am in the next. Occasionally, I'm bringing a session in for a landing and I'm watching the clock and a client feels pressured. Just yesterday, I had a client tell me that they felt like I was rushing them and became very upset that they didn't get, quote unquote, the full hour. And I am trying to neatly wrap something because somebody's in the waiting room and I'm trying to give everybody their time There's documentation that needs to be done. There are days, I can't even say days, almost every day. This is terrible. I intentionally do not drink water or anything because I know that there's not even a 1-minute gap between sessions to use the restroom. It's literally back to back with no break. Now add in with insurance too, that they're like, did you actually spend 53 minutes face to face? Because if you didn't, then like that's a clawback and an audit and all these other things. The cost is you can do that for a while, but it will somewhere, maybe not with clients, but somewhere it will lead to a little bit less patience or presence. So there's no real off switch. It just kind of gets carried through the whole day. And here's a part that gets misunderstood from the outside. For people who are not therapists, it looks like I'm just sitting in a room of plants, sitting and like chatting with friends all day and getting paid for it, like having tea with a bestie. Like I'm just having conversations and hanging out. And that is not what therapy is. For me, it is 50 to 55 minutes of constant tracking, attention, listening attentively, watching body language, holding multiple threads at the same time while staying regulated, while sometimes somebody else isn't, catching what is said, what was not said, what maybe was inferred, what shifted, what didn't. There's no autopilot in that. And I don't drift through it, because if I do, then I miss like really important things. And so I do that for 40 to 50 times a week, and there is a cost. For example, yesterday I got home, I sat down on the couch and I crashed. I fell asleep in a sitting position, no transition, no decompress, just like a phone that turned off in the middle of a task. And that is a signal. It is the flashing red battery that says like phone's about to turn off. And I've been seeing that signal and still overriding it anyway, like still got 2% left. There's a point when this stops being subtle, where I'm not just busy, but I'm taxed, and the nervous system has been running hot for too long. And then I notice that even small things probably are heavier or more annoying than they should be. And in a podcast I recorded yesterday, I had used a quote, "A broken mirror doesn't go back to reflecting the way it did, and fallen flowers don't go back to the branch." So once you see something clearly, and I also just talked about the 3 poisons, right? That once you see something clearly and you go back into it repeatedly, you have to make a decision in real time. And this isn't new for me. Here was the real epiphany that I had, that I knew something needed to shift. When I was a kid, my dad worked constantly. He was a good man. He lived in line with his values. He was honest to a fault. He was a scientist, and sometimes he would be propositioned with, being asked to make things look a certain way with scientific data. I had learned about times that he had been asked to manipulate data or to present it a certain way so that maybe a high-paying client could show a certain outcome. I'm just making this up, but like, let's say, for example, Philip Morris or a smoking company being like, can you show that like the data shows that smoking doesn't cause cancer? Just making up something, right? But he had been asked for things like that, and his integrity would not allow things like that. So, good man, lived in line with his values, hyper intelligent, way too intelligent, and also the kind of intelligence that was isolating, because everything around him felt slow to him. Conversations felt slow to him. Often if I was talking about something, he would, I don't have a video, but he would wave his hands like, yeah, get to the fucking point. Like, come on, man. And I would tell him I was going to get there. Or he would pause me and he would ask clarifying questions. And I was like, if you didn't interrupt me, I was going to get there actually. And I noticed that pattern too in myself, which is something I have had to practice quite a bit with clients is I try not to interrupt. And often I find that they do get there if I don't interrupt. But for him, conversations felt slow. People felt slow. He did not tolerate inefficiency well. And over time, that turned into a prison of isolation and distance. He didn't have any close relationships. His marriage took a hit. Family took a hit. My sister and I, if you listen to her speaker meeting, we didn't have a real close relationship with him growing up in childhood. A lot of that changed. There was a lot of healing. So I'm not trying to make this like a, listen to my story thing. But there was one particularly painful moment from my childhood where he was frustrated and I'm sure dealing with 10 things at once. Who knows what he was going through? But in a moment of his frustration and anger, he told me as a kid, you are a worthless human being. And as much EMDR as you can do around something like that, that is not something that just passes through. It can organize the whole structure of your life. Worth being something that you chase or something that you build or that you maintain or tie to output or performance or trying to get somewhere or to not be behind. And I do work, I produce, I'm efficient, I become valuable, and it works. And that's what makes it hard to see the pattern in real time because I love the work that I do with people. It's deeply rewarding to me to be part of the change process with them in their lives. But that structure that forms out of that may not look broken on the outside. It looks very disciplined and focused, and it's reinforced by results, feedback, and high demand. And demand that stays so high that I justify staying maxed out all the time. And the results validate the pace. Until sitting with and looking clearly at the cost, which creeps subtly, but how present I am, how I move through life. And my partner, if you listen to the episode about the 3 poisons, we have these conversations, these moments of clarity that I'm like, I'm grinding for this season, and then the clarity conversation of we both know that that's bullshit, that I'm seriously like workaholic, and the benchmark or the line of success is just going to keep moving. And so I think I did a little bit better, or I've done a little bit better than maybe my dad did with intentional check-ins of making sure that the people who are closest to me do still feel valued and important and don't feel like they are sidelined. But truly, we only have so much capacity and we only have so much bandwidth. You just can't be present to everything, everywhere, all the time. It's just not possible as much as you'd like to do that. The only thing that interrupts all of this cycle is self-correction. And that only happens if you're willing to look at something that is working and still make changes. And that's the part that I haven't been doing. I've been talking about it in my own therapy, saying I need to slow it down, canceling my own therapy appointments, going, I'm in full-blown chaos, you know it, I'm doing the same damn thing, haven't changed anything. Kind of like a lot of the clients that I work with that haven't changed anything. Saying I need to adjust the structure, saying I need to slow it down and be more present, and that I'm trying to be mindful, but then continuing to run at the same pace. Seeing clearly, feeling physically, continuing anyway, that's the gap. Awareness, no behavior change. So the question shifts from, is this working? Which it is, to what is this building? Because the structure I run every day is building something, whether I'm paying attention to it or not. And if I don't interrupt it, then it keeps building in the same direction. I think about this scene in Breaking Bad where Walt and Skyler are standing over a pallet of cash, millions of dollars, and she says to him, "How much is enough?" And my mom used to say that to my dad, and the question applies here because the structure doesn't stop reinforcing itself on its own. There isn't a built-in limit. There's just more sessions, more output, more efficiency, more capacity, until I decide where the line is, and then I override that. So I have just recently made a decision to depanel from insurance, an operational move, which means fewer sessions, shorter windows, not working 6 days a week. And as I feared, a handful of clients immediately dropped off, which is completely understandable. I pay $1,000 a month for health insurance. It would certainly make sense to want to use those benefits that you're paying a fortune for. Well, hopefully for you, it's subsidized by your work. Right, same pattern, all the insight, no change. So I'm going to be making some changes. Fewer sessions, shorter windows, fewer days, closer to something that actually resembles a real normal work day, something 9 to 5-ish. I think perhaps I had justified from my police career. I worked 12-hour shifts there, and as a therapist, you cannot work a 12-hour shift, but I have been routinely working 6 or 7 a.m. until 6 or 7 p.m., and I tell myself that I can handle the work, but then I can see exactly what happens if I don't change that structure, like coming home and crashing immediately on the couch. There is a cost to changing the structure, and the cost is I'm going to lose some clients. And I don't take that lightly because it truly is an honor to do this work. It's an honor for me to be a part of people's lives in a real way, to watch people get sober, stabilize, set boundaries in super toxic relationships or leave toxic relationships, rebuild, and change stuff that has been stuck for years. I wouldn't see so many people if I didn't love what I do. But the decision also needs to be made anyway, because keeping everything the same guarantees a trajectory that I already understand, and changing it, well, introduces uncertainty that makes everybody scared, right? So that's the trade. Some people will stay, some won't. What's aligned and what's supposed to be will stay, and what isn't won't, and that will be okay. This only works if I trust myself or trust the process. I believe in a higher power. You don't have to, but I have found that that's a really important part for me. So I'm going to trust. Not that everything works out perfectly or clean or that I break even. Not that it's going to feel good. Not that I will feel great about trade-offs, but that I can handle whatever comes. That I can deal with the uncertainty, that I can deal with loss, and that I can adjust in real time without needing everything to be perfect or stabilized first. Because if we are waiting for certainty, then we often do not move, right? We don't leave the relationship that isn't good for us, if we don't feel certain about the next thing, or we don't leave the job that's just sucking the spirit out of you because you feel so certain that you need the stability of that paycheck, even though the cost is real. And so, look, I'm like doing my own therapy, talking myself into what I'm doing. I can't wait for something to feel right. Just need to move. And so that's what I'm doing. And I wanted to share that story with listeners, again, to humanize. I don't talk about stuff like this in sessions with clients because I don't want to pull the focus off of clients. It's one of the benefits of a 12-step approach in peer-led recovery is that people don't tell you what to do. They just share what they have done. And if that works for you, great, you apply it. And if you don't like it, well, you don't have to. They're not, the boss of you or your life or anything like that. And so this is part of my process is that, yeah, there's conflict in that. There's a part of me that wants to keep everything exactly as it was because it was kind of working or because it's familiar or effective. And then there's also a part that knows exactly where this will go if I don't adjust it, just like my dad. Wow, that's something to sit with, huh? Both are there at the same time. Neither one has to go away for me to act. Don't need to feel settled to move. Don't need to feel certain to adjust. And I don't need to resolve tension before making a change. Just have to be willing to move with it there. Yesterday I recorded an episode about the Tetris analogy after my podcast took a shit and I lost everything. So, because the alternative is clear, if I keep the structure and the pace and the output and build something that looks good from the outside, it will cost something that I cannot get back. My dad, in his last year or so, had filled out this book that was kind of like a about me or about my life thing that my sister gave him. Like, Dad, I want to know you. And in that, there was a theme, paraphrasing, where he recognized that he loved the work that he did, but that there was not enough balance and that there was not enough being present in the moments that mattered, and that was at the cost of relationships. And, for anyone who didn't know about how my dad had passed, he had degenerative back disease that really had left him slowly just getting worse and worse and worse until he was couch bound. And his last final years were very, very hard to watch. Someone so intelligent with a brain so active, but at the same time, a body failing and also not a ton of real close relationships around. There's certainly some teaching points and lessons in there. And so I wanted to share with people kind of what some of that process was this morning for me, of if I'm ever tasking clients to sit and reflect or journal or do whatever, I could tell you I don't ever ask people to do something that I am not doing myself. Going back to that 3 poisons episode from a few days ago, there's been chasing, avoiding, and not seeing clearly. And I am going to bring this down to what I am actually watching in my own behavior right now. It's really simple. When I hit a signal like that crash of getting home and immediately passing out on the couch, not substance-induced these days, but literally from being so drained, you either change something the next day or you don't. When there's empty space, I either leave it alone or I fill it immediately. And when I catch myself saying I'm going to slow down after this, I either believe it or I recognize it as me believing my own bullshit and the same pattern continuing. And that's where the decision is. Not what I say, but what I do right there. So apply that for yourself. This isn't about depaneling from insurance. That's just the current version of this life adjustment. This is about catching a pattern that works and then still choosing to change it because of knowing where the trajectory is going to take me. That's self-correction in real time. And that is doing the work, because if you strip it down, it comes to something simple. There's no getting time back. There's only dealing with what's right in front of you right now and what you're going to do with it, and whether or not you trust yourself to handle whatever that turns into. So that's a little bit about me and my process. I'm going to turn it to you to think about this in your own life. Like Brian getting home and immediately crashing on the couch, a zero battery. What's your signal? What's the signal that you are seeing and you're overriding? Not vague, concrete. What's your crashing on the couch or snapping at somebody that you care about, or brain ruminating at night, or being angry at a dog for doing what dogs do, or not drinking water so that you can work 5 hours in a row without being a human being and being able to use the bathroom? What's your thing? Second is the structure question. What does my current schedule actually build if I don't change it? Not what it produces, what it builds. What are your days, your relationship, your presence? What's your nervous system look like? You don't have to be taking Xanax to still notice that you got acid reflux and that your guts are in a knot all day with your brain ruminating. Question 3, honesty question. Where am I saying I'll change something and then you're not changing it? That's the one. Don't be abstract. Look for you, believe in your own bullshit like me. After this week, once things slow down after the garage project, what's your when I get through this stretch? You already know if that's real or not. If you didn't get an opportunity to listen to that 3 Poisons episode, what are you seeing clearly, but still doing anyway? That one lands hard. Man, that's some good questions. Well, I hope that this was helpful to someone out there that heard something that they needed to hear today, or to think about something that you needed to change. I'll close it with one final thought, just kind of impromptu. You know, I have worn this wristband or bracelet for probably 2 or 3 years, but this concept, memento mori, remember death, and ask yourself, if you were in a terrible car crash today and in your dying moment, would you be asking, or would you be saying to yourself, thank God I saw 50 clients this week and that I did all of that. Thank God I compressed that garage project that should have been a 30-year mortgage into a 2-year thing on the tightest possible time frame as possible. Thank goodness I did that. Or might yours look a little bit more like my dad's did, of that journal entry book of I should have been more present. Stuff like that, questions like that, that's doing the work. Thanks for spending the time with me. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with somebody who may need to hear it. Be kind to yourself, be kind to people around you. Remember that we're all doing the best that we can with the tools that we currently have, and we're all capable of growing past that. If you'd like to reach out or connect, send me an email, brian@naplesintegratedrecovery.com. I hope to hear from you there. In the meantime, thanks again for listening. I'll see you on the next one.